Honours system under scrutiny after sex abuser kept title 4 years. Expert in heraldry and genealogy wasn't stripped of title until 3 years after court recognised him as a paedophile. Jamie Dowd, Saturday, 30th of March 2019, 23:54 CET. Lawyers have called for an overhaul of the honours forfeiture system, where it emerged that a sex abuser retained an honour bestowed for services to the Queen some 3 years after a court recognised him as a paedophile. The system is too slow to acknowledge an offender's offences, say lawyers specialising in abuse claims, and, in the case of those who have died, cannot strip them of their honours, leaving victims feeling that they have been cheated of justice. Hubert Chesshyre, 78, an expert on heraldry and genealogy, held a number of senior positions within the royal household, rising to become Secretary of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, the highest order in British chivalry. Among the many honours bestowed upon him over more than 40 years were the Queen's Silver and Golden Jubilee Medals, and the Commander of the Royal Victorian Order, CVO, the latter for distinguished personal service to the monarch. A fellow, or member of several illustrious organisations and charities, he was a heraldic consultant to the likes of Sir Paul McCartney, Lord Sugar and Sir Terry Pratchett. But it recently emerged during the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, IICSA, that in 2015 Cheshire was found to have sexually abused a teenage chorister during the 1990s, a fact that has remained buried from public record. This is because Cheshire's case did not result in a criminal conviction. Rather, the inquiry heard, he was found to have committed the acts in question in a trial of the facts. These are held when the accused is deemed unfit to plead. The court recognised that Cheshire had suffered a stroke. It was also said that he had dementia. As a result, despite being found to have committed the abuse, he was given an absolute discharge. The fact that Cheshire's name was misspelled throughout the trial, despite repeated police efforts to have it corrected, has made it difficult to identify him in legal databases. His victim told The Observer that he believed there may have been others. I know of other boys from the choir where their parents became concerned and stopped Mr. Cheshire from having anything more to do with them. Cheshire's case is similar to that of Lord Janner, who was also accused of sexual abuse, suffering from dementia. Janner was due to undergo a similar trial of the facts, but this was dropped after his death in 2015. In October 2015, Cheshire's victim wrote to Sir Alan Reid, Secretary of the Royal Victorian Order, calling for forfeiture of Cheshire's honour. Reid replied that this would be wrong, because Cheshire had been given an absolute discharge, and no conviction registered. Reid's position was mirrored by that of several organisations. The Heraldry Society said that it had no plans to remove his fellowship, in an email seen by The Observer. In another email to the victim, the Society of Antiquaries of London said it would not put the question of his removal to the Fellows of the Society. The Bok Choir said it was not incumbent on it to take any further action as Cheshire, an associate member, had no involvement with it anymore. The Corporation of London emailed the victim to tell him it did not have the power to remove Cheshire's status as a freeman of the City of London. The Institute of Heraldic and Genealogical Studies continues to list Hubert Cheshire CVO as a vice president. It was only after the victim contacted his MP, who took it up with the Prime Minister, that the honour was eventually forfeited. But the victim only learned of this action in October 2018, 5 months after it happened, and 3 years after Cheshire's trial. He was dismayed to learn via a Cabinet Office email that the forfeiture would not be published in the London Gazette, a standard procedure. The case has led to calls for the honours forfeiture system to be reformed, an issue recently discussed at the IICSA. A significant overhaul is necessary to ensure that any person who has been found to have committed acts of abuse on children has any and all honorific titles automatically removed, whether or not they are still alive, said Andrew Lord, abuse solicitor at the law firm Day. Survivors of abuse deserve to be safe in the knowledge that when crimes committed against them are proven, Any benefits or prestige conveyed to the holder of an honorary title are swiftly removed in a clear and transparent process. As of Saturday night, Chesshyre's Wikipedia page made no mention of his trial. When approached by the Observer, the various societies of which he is a member confirmed that they would not be dissociating themselves from him. The victim said, "As far as most people are concerned, he's still 𝗧𝗿𝗱𝗶𝗁𝗍𝗍. Chesshyre served for more than 40 years as an officer of arms in ordinary to Queen Elizabeth II, and as a member of Her Majesty's household. He was Clarence King of Arms, the second most senior member of the College of Arms, and the second most senior heraldic position in England, Wales, Northern Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and several other Commonwealth countries. His other appointments included those of Registrar of the College of Arms, Secretary of the Order of the Garter, and Honorary Genealogist to the Royal Victorian Order. Chesshyre undertook heraldic and genealogical work for high-profile clients, such as the former Prime Minister, Sir Edward Heath. He wrote 7 books, including the official history of the Order of the Garter. Chesshyre was Secretary of the Order of the Garter from 1988 until 2003. Having been trained for the role by his predecessor Walter Virchow and by Virchow's predecessor but one, Anthony Vogler. Upon his resignation, Chesshyre had an audience with the Queen at Buckingham Palace, during which he surrendered his badge of office. Following the 1992 Windsor Castle fire, Chesshyre was, together with Peter Begent, appointed heraldic consultant for the reconstruction of St George's Hall. Chesshyre was also honorary genealogist of the Society of the Friends of St George's and descendants of the Knights of the Garter. He also served for 23 years as honorary genealogist to the Royal Victorian Order, 1987 to 2010, again succeeding Walter Virchow. As Ulster King of Arms, merged with Norroy, Chesshyre also held the technically extant position of King of Arms, Registrar, and Knight Attendant of the Order of St Patrick. He was therefore briefly one of just two members of the Order of St Patrick, the other member being Queen Elizabeth II, who remained sovereign of the Order. Chesshyre retired from the College of Arms on 31st of August 2010. His last public duties took place at the State Opening of Parliament on 25th of May 2010, and at the Garter Day ceremony on 14th of June 2010. Commentating on the State Opening for the BBC, Edwards remarked upon Chesshyre's 40 years of service.